What if the words that hurt you yesterday no longer had the power to steal your peace today? What if the moods of others could no longer decide the direction of your life? Stay with me, because by the end of this message, you will learn how to take back control of your heart, your mind, and your future. Many people wake up every morning with great potential, but by the end of the day they feel drained, discouraged, and defeated, not because of what they did, but because of what someone said or how someone treated them. A single comment, a look of disapproval, or a lack of appreciation can control their joy, their confidence, and even their faith. This is one of the greatest battles of our time, allowing people to sit on the throne of our emotions. But listen carefully. No human being was created to live at the mercy of another person's behavior. Your feelings were not designed to be remote controlled by opinions, criticism, or rejection. There is a higher way to live, a stronger foundation to stand on, and a deeper peace available to you. If you stay with this message until the end, you will discover why emotional freedom is not achieved by changing people, but by changing where your heart is anchored and how you respond to life through faith, wisdom, and spiritual authority. Many people do not realize that every single day they are making a quiet decision about who will rule their heart. They wake up with hope, but the moment someone speaks harshly, ignores them, or disagrees with them, their emotional atmosphere changes. Their joy rises and falls based on how people treat them. This happens because, without knowing it, they have given authority over their heart to human voices. When people are placed in positions of authority over your emotions, you become vulnerable to instability, confusion, and inner exhaustion. Your heart was never designed to be governed by the moods, opinions, or reactions of others. From the beginning, the heart was created to be guided by truth and purpose, yet many live as if approval is oxygen, as if acceptance is survival, and as if criticism is a threat to existence. When someone praises them, they feel valuable. When someone rejects them, they feel worthless. This cycle repeats daily, slowly shaping a life controlled by emotional reactions rather than inner conviction. A heart that depends on people will always be restless because people are inconsistent, unpredictable, and imperfect. One day they celebrate you, the next day they misunderstand you. And if your heart is tied to their approval, your peace will constantly be under attack. Authority over the heart is a powerful thing. Whoever holds it determines how you see yourself, how you respond to challenges, and how you walk through life. If people have that authority, they can wound you deeply without even intending to. A careless word, a delayed response, a lack of recognition becomes enough to disturb your inner world. This is why many strong, talented individuals still live with insecurity and emotional pain. Their outer life looks fine, but inside, their heart is being ruled by voices that were never meant to sit on that throne. True strength begins when you recognize that your value is not created by human judgment. People can observe your actions, but they cannot define your worth. When you allow opinions to define you, you live as a prisoner of perception. One person sees you as capable, another sees you as inadequate, and your emotions swing between confidence and doubt. This is not freedom. Freedom comes when your heart is anchored to something higher than human approval. When your identity is rooted in purpose rather than popularity, people lose their power to control your feelings. Many believe that being emotionally sensitive means being kind or humble, but emotional sensitivity without boundaries often leads to emotional exhaustion. There is a difference between having a tender heart and surrendering authority over your heart. A mature person can listen to others without being ruled by them. They can receive correction without losing peace. They can hear criticism without losing confidence. This is not because they are hardened, but because their heart answers to truth, not noise. When you decide who has authority over your heart, you decide the direction of your life. If your heart answers to fear, you will avoid growth. If it answers to rejection, you will live defensively. If it answers to approval, you will compromise your values. But when your heart answers to inner conviction and spiritual truth, you begin to walk with stability. You stop reacting to every emotional trigger. You begin to respond with wisdom. Your peace becomes rooted, not fragile. Many people confuse emotional reactions with honesty. They believe that whatever they feel must be expressed immediately. But feelings are not leaders, they are indicators. When feelings are allowed to lead, confusion follows. When truth leads and feelings follow, clarity comes. Authority over the heart means deciding that emotions will no longer dictate your decisions, your words, or your sense of worth. It means understanding that emotions are real, but they are not always accurate. When people control your feelings, they also control your focus. You replay conversations in your mind. You imagine what they think about you. You rehearse hurtful moments over and over again. This mental cycle drains energy and steals joy. But when you reclaim authority over your heart, you interrupt this cycle. You learn to say within yourself that your peace is too valuable to be surrendered to every comment and reaction. You begin to protect your inner world with intention and discipline. Authority over the heart also means understanding that not every voice deserves access. Some people speak from pain, insecurity, or misunderstanding. When you give equal weight to every opinion, you treat all voices as equal, even when they are not. Wisdom teaches you to discern which voices align with truth and which ones should be filtered. This discernment does not make you proud, it makes you healthy. A guarded heart is not a closed heart, it is a wise heart. As you grow in this understanding, you begin to experience emotional stability that does not depend on circumstances. Praise no longer inflates you, and criticism no longer devastates you. You remain grounded. You become less reactive and more reflective. Instead of asking why people are the way they are, you begin to focus on who you are becoming. This shift changes everything. Your confidence becomes quiet but strong. Your peace becomes deep and steady. The moment you take back authority over your heart, you stop living for emotional survival and start living with purpose. You no longer wake up wondering how people will treat you. You wake up grounded in who you are. This does not mean people will stop being difficult, unfair, or disappointing. It means their behavior will no longer decide your emotional state. You become anchored, not drifting. You become led, not pushed. You become free from emotional dependence, standing firmly in inner authority and spiritual identity. Many people spend their lives exhausted because they are fighting the wrong battle. They believe the solution to their emotional pain is changing people. They hope others will become more understanding, more respectful, more supportive, more careful with words. They wait for apologies, validation, and recognition, believing that once people behave differently, peace will finally arrive. But peace that depends on people is always temporary. The truth is that emotional freedom does not begin when people change. It begins when you change how you respond. Life constantly presents situations you did not choose. People will misunderstand you, speak carelessly, judge unfairly, or act from their own wounds. You cannot control their actions, their attitudes, or their opinions. Trying to control them drains your energy and leaves you frustrated. But there is one sacred space where you have full authority, and that is your response. The moment you understand this, you step into strength. You stop being a victim of circumstances and begin living as someone who governs their inner world. Reaction is automatic. Response is intentional. When someone speaks harshly and you immediately feel anger, hurt, or sadness, that is reaction. Reaction happens before wisdom has time to speak. It pulls you into emotional turbulence and often leads to words and actions you later regret. Response, however, is a choice. It creates a pause between what happens and how you act. In that pause, you reclaim power. You decide whether the situation deserves access to your peace. Many people believe that if they do not react strongly, they are being weak or dishonest. But true strength is not found in emotional explosions. It is found in emotional control. A controlled response does not deny feelings. It places them under guidance. It acknowledges the emotion without allowing it to rule. When you respond instead of react, you send a message to yourself that your emotions serve you, not the other way around. Changing your response also changes the atmosphere around you. When people expect you to react emotionally and you respond calmly, it disrupts unhealthy patterns. Conflict loses momentum. Arguments lose fuel. Even difficult people often lose influence when they realize they can no longer provoke you. This is not manipulation. It is maturity. You are no longer participating in emotional chaos. You are choosing peace over impulse. There is a powerful truth many overlook. People can only control you to the degree that you react to them. When someone can predict your emotional reaction, they hold influence over you. But when your response becomes unpredictable because it is guided by wisdom rather than emotion, their control weakens. This is why learning to respond is an act of freedom. You are breaking invisible chains that have tied your emotional state to external behavior. Responding wisely requires inner awareness. You begin to observe yourself. You notice patterns in what triggers you. You recognize which words, tones, or situations cause emotional spikes. This awareness is not meant to condemn you, but to strengthen you. Once you know your triggers, you can prepare for them. Preparation turns emotional weakness into emotional intelligence. A wise response does not always mean silence, but it always means intention. Sometimes the response is calm communication. Sometimes it is setting boundaries. Sometimes it is walking away. Sometimes it is choosing forgiveness internally, even when reconciliation is not possible. The power lies in choosing rather than reacting. When you choose your response, you protect your inner peace while still honoring truth. Many people fear that if they do not react, injustice will go unaddressed. But responding does not mean tolerating disrespect. It means addressing issues without surrendering emotional control. You can speak firmly without anger. You can express disappointment without bitterness. You can correct without cruelty. When emotion is governed by wisdom, your words carry authority instead of regret. As you practice changing your response, you begin to notice something shift inside you. Situations that once disturbed you lose intensity. Words that once wounded you lose their sting. You become less reactive, not because you care less, but because you are stronger. Strength does not harden the heart, it steadies it. You begin to feel secure even in uncomfortable moments. Over time, this practice reshapes your emotional life. You no longer replay conversations endlessly in your mind. You no longer feel the need to defend yourself against every opinion. You stop chasing explanations from people who may never understand you. Your peace becomes self-sustaining rather than dependent. This is the fruit of mastering your response. When you change your response, you also change how you see yourself. You begin to trust your ability to handle pressure. Confidence grows quietly, not from external praise, but from internal stability. You realize that no situation has the power to destroy your peace unless you allow it. This realization is deeply freeing. Responding instead of reacting is a daily practice, not a one-time decision. Some days you will succeed, and some days you will struggle. But every moment of awareness strengthens you. Every intentional response builds emotional resilience. Slowly, consistently, you step out of emotional dependency and into inner authority. The world may remain loud, people may remain imperfect, and circumstances may remain challenging, but your inner world begins to change. You stop waiting for people to behave better and start living better regardless of their behavior. This is not emotional denial, it is emotional leadership. You are no longer controlled by what happens to you, but guided by how you choose to respond to life. Many people are controlled by the outside world because their inner world has not been strengthened. When the inside is weak, the outside becomes powerful. Every word spoken, every expression of disapproval, every delay in appreciation feels heavy because there is nothing solid within to absorb the pressure. This is why two people can face the same situation and respond completely differently. One collapses emotionally, while the other remains steady. The difference is not circumstance, but the strength of the inner life. An undeveloped inner life constantly looks outward for reassurance. It needs affirmation to feel secure and validation to feel valuable. When that validation is missing, insecurity grows. When criticism appears, confidence collapses. This creates emotional dependency, where peace is borrowed from people rather than produced from within. But an inner life built on faith, purpose, and spiritual discipline does not depend on external approval. It carries its own source of stability. Outside pressure is unavoidable. Life will always bring demands, misunderstandings, opposition, and disappointment. People will act from their own fears and limitations. If your inner life is shallow, every challenge feels overwhelming. But when your inner life is deep, pressure does not destroy you. It reveals your strength. The storms may be real, but your foundation determines whether you are shaken or sustained. Building a strong inner life begins with intentional time alone. Silence, reflection, and prayer are not escapes from reality. They are preparations for it. When you regularly quiet the noise around you, you become aware of what is happening within you. You begin to recognize thoughts that weaken you and replace them with truth that strengthens you. Without this practice, the loudest voices around you will always overpower the quiet wisdom within you. A strong inner life is also shaped by what you consistently feed your mind. Words carry power. When your thoughts are constantly filled with negativity, comparison, and fear, emotional weakness follows. But when your mind is renewed with truth, hope, and purpose, resilience grows. You begin to see challenges as temporary and criticism as information rather than identity. What once felt personal begins to feel manageable. People who build their inner life understand that emotions are signals, not commands. They feel hurt, but they do not live hurt. They feel disappointment, but they do not become discouraged. They feel anger, but they do not act destructively. This emotional regulation is not suppression, it is maturity. It comes from knowing that the inner world must lead the outer experience, not the other way around. Spiritual confidence grows quietly within those who invest in their inner life. It is not loud or arrogant. It does not need to prove itself. It simply knows. This confidence allows a person to stand firm without needing to explain themselves to everyone. It allows them to walk away from conflict without feeling defeated. It allows them to remain kind without becoming weak. This kind of strength cannot be borrowed. It must be built. When the inner life is strong, perspective changes. Problems that once felt enormous shrink in size. Delays no longer feel like rejection. Silence no longer feels like abandonment. You begin to interpret life through wisdom rather than emotion. This shift protects your heart from unnecessary pain. It also prevents people from controlling your feelings because their actions no longer define your reality. Consistency is essential in building this inner strength. Just as physical strength grows through repeated exercise, inner strength grows through repeated spiritual discipline. There are no shortcuts. One moment of inspiration cannot replace daily cultivation. Over time, these small, consistent practices create emotional endurance. You begin to notice that situations that once drained you no longer have the same effect. A strong inner life also teaches you to live from purpose rather than reaction. Instead of asking how a situation makes you feel, you begin asking what response aligns with your values. This shift moves you from emotional living to intentional living. You stop being pushed by circumstances and start being guided by conviction. This is where true freedom is experienced. As the inner life grows stronger, external approval loses its grip. Praise becomes pleasant but not necessary. Criticism becomes informative but not destructive. You become less defensive because you are no longer insecure. You become less reactive because you are no longer fragile. This emotional stability does not isolate you from people. It allows you to engage with them without losing yourself. When inner strength surpasses outside pressure, peace becomes consistent rather than conditional. You carry calm into stressful environments. You carry clarity into confusion. You carry confidence into uncertainty. People may still behave unpredictably, but your emotional state remains grounded. This is not because life has become easier, but because you have become anchored. The ultimate goal of building a strong inner life is not perfection, but stability. You will still feel emotions, but they will no longer control you. You will still face challenges, but they will no longer define you. You will still encounter difficult people, but they will no longer have access to the throne of your heart. When the inner life is strong, the outer world loses its power to dominate your emotions, and peace flows from within rather than being demanded from others.